right, today is probably our last paired programming, and we're going to get into one of the most difficult areas, and you're going to see there's a lot of unknowns here. We are going to get into Babylon, and particularly how to treat Babylon like a view, and how that ties in with everything else we do. All right, so Babylon, it's important to think about, it's hard too, but it's important to think about Babylon as simply a view. There's no logic going on. I mean, there's no important app logic going on. Yeah, you see things. Yeah, there's meshes in there. They're flashing, they're glowing, they're hidden, they're showing. That's what we're going to be working on today. We may even be able to click and move them and drag them around. But just keep it in your... Yeah, go ahead, Emil. Yeah.
I follow where you're going, but so is this... Would you consider this to be a framework?
Yep.
React? Or like what exactly is Babylon? Is it a framework? Is it a...
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So let's take a step back. Babylon is what renders our 3D engine. If you have any experience with... Yeah, I think, Emil, maybe you have experience with Three.js. Is that right? Did I remember that right?
Yeah, I do.
Yep.
I do have a little bit.
Okay. So Babylon and Three.js are competitors. They both fill the same void.
Okay.
Another example is Unity. If you guys have ever worked in Unity, that is not quite as similar, but it's the game engine. It's what makes our 3D scene appear to us. So when you act on that 3D scene, it's easy to think that when you click and you drag on a mesh and you drag that mesh off to the side, or you click and you drag the view and you change that view, you rotate it around, it's easy to kind of think, oh, I'm working right on that mesh. But remember, that's all of that logic is going through the domain. It's going through an entity probably. So when we click and we drag, we haven't done any peeling. We call it peeling when you can click on a thing and drag it. Panning the camera. When we click and we pan the camera, we're not acting on the camera or the objects directly in Babylon. We're calling a controller. That controller is working on a use case. The use case is saying, hey, take this mesh, this object, and set its position to this. And then that comes around through a PM, which is picked up by a view script inside of Babylon, and that actually moves the mesh. All right? I know it sounds like a long way around to get to just dragging a mesh, but the key here is all this logic we're writing, it's test-driven. It's not in the... It has no knowledge of Babylon. And that's the key thing here is all of like that dragging of the camera, that needs to happen in pure math, pure TypeScript, pure code. Because we want Babylon to be replaceable. We don't have any control over Babylon. Babylon is a framework. We should be able to delete our Babylon folder and drop in a Three.js folder if we want. And the amount of wiring that together, there's work there, obviously, but it's very, very small. It does not change. Another challenge you can think of is, it's really hard to think about this, but this is like the purity challenge. We should be able to do hotspots as a console game where you remember the old console games where you're in a console and you're typing console? I have no idea how that would really work, but that is our goal. We should be able, because what that tells you, I mean, the real answer of that is if you can do hotspot as like a console, we can write integration testing that tests all the functionality. Like we can run our hotspot app, I would call it headless, meaning there's no view. And while that's like, why would you do, it's kind of like hard to imagine why you would do that. The beauty is that allows us to test it and run it and work it without human interaction, without needing to know. And we can validate things. We can prove that when you click and you drag 3 pixels on this thing, it's going to move that thing. It's going to set a position 6 world units to the left. And that's the beauty of what we're trying to do. All right, you guys got me ranting again. I'm on a rant. I'm on ranting mode. So let's get into Babylon views. All right. So here we go. Let's share my screen. Screen 1. All right. Now I'm going to jump to the hotspot. I already picked out a card for this. We're going to set scene object appearance. So I'm going to grab this card, drop it over here. I messed up yesterday. I don't know if you guys caught it. I forgot to make a branch for our feature, and I added it to one. I think I added it to Philip's pull request is what I did. So let me create a branch. Let me pull that off, a feature branch off of develop. And we're going to create this branch. I wonder why we have that again. Something did not pass. Well, let me go ahead and copy this branch. Get that. Just want to peek at the pipelines real quick. Okay, it just paused. This happens when I do too many pull requests really fast, and I submit too many things to the development branch. It pauses the the build pipeline. So nothing to worry about there. Let's get into our project. All right, I'm in hotspot. Let me go ahead and stop it. Yes, let's do a git fetch, and we're going to do a git pull. Oh, are you going to run slow today? Okay, let's do a git. Oh, wait, I'm just going to copy that command I copied there. All right, we are in my branch now. Let me just close a bunch of stuff here. Close all. Close all. And let's take a look at our card that we were working on. All right, scene object appearance. So, some notes here. Scene object is a word that we use to describe anything that you can interact with in the scene. So anything you can click on, anything you're possibly going to work with in the Babylon scene. Okay, another thing, when I say scene, I'm talking about the 3D rendered scene that's being handled by Babylon. So we have a scene object. It's an object in the scene that you can work on. This is what's going to allow us to click on things, to identify a particular mesh, and in particular, this script will adjust how a mesh is rendered inside of Babylon. This is going to adjust the appearance of that scene object. We should place this in Frameworks Babylon Views. We can refactor Hotspot View to do this. We have another thing in there that's running already that's going. This script will be responsible for the following: hiding the mesh when the appearance for the scene object changes to hidden. Switching the mesh material to the hotspot material when the appearance changes to hotspot. Switching the mesh back to its original material when the appearance changes to normal. Tweaking the material when the object is being hovered, and tweaking the material when the object is being pressed. The appearance for all of this comes from the scene object appearance PM. There are many unknowns in this script. All right, the unknowns revolve around what are we actually going to, what are the literal things we're going to do to the material? The material, just quick backup, just some basics of 3D scenes. The things you can see, the objects, those are called meshes. Those are an array of vertex positions and triangles. That's what is the shape. The appearance of that mesh, the color, the texture on it, that is called a material. So you've got mesh and you've got material applied to the mesh. So just some basic background on 3D stuff. All right, so I'm going to pop over to this thing, the Scene Object Appearance PM. This is a presentation manager. So we have a lot of things in here. You could be thinking, well, how do I know when it's hidden? How do I know when it's a hotspot? How do I know when it's normal? How do I know when it's pressed? We don't have to worry about that. We have a PM, presentation manager, that's going to tell us, hey, you're hidden, you're shown, you're a hotspot, you're pressed. We don't care what's going on. We are just going to reflect whatever the PM tells us to do. So let's look at our PM real quick. It is called Scene Object Appearance. And you can see this is the VM, the view model, or the view model that we're going to receive. Simple VM. We're going to get an appearance. This is an enum. Enum. That means this appearance can be one of three things: normal, hidden, or hotspot target. So those are our things. That is telling us, all right, kind of a basic state of the mesh. We are either normal, don't do anything unusual. We're hidden. That means we should not be visible. Or we're some sort of hotspot target. We're that throbbing green thing now, right? On top of that, we have two bools. We're going to either be hovered, which means somebody is pointing at us, That's a true-false Boolean. And we could be pressed. And that means someone has hovered on us and they're pressing on us. This, you guys will start thinking about that use case we wrote yesterday about pressing. So that's what's setting this, ultimately. So that is what's going on. So we are going to write a script. This script is going to be attached to every mesh in our screen, in our world, in our 3D scene. This mesh, this script, this view script is going to create this PM. It's going to instantiate the PM. It's going to wire itself up to it, and then it's going to receive a view model. And every time it receives a view model, we know that that means that something has changed in what we need to look like, and we're going to apply that to our guy, to our thing. All right. Now, the tricky bits of this are, this is all going to be Babylon. I don't know how to do test-driven development in Babylon view scripts, so we're going to have to hope that a lot of this stuff is set up because there's no other way to test this other than actually viewing it in the scene. It's kind of like how we do React views in a way. So let's get started. All right. Let me just real quick. Sure. Yeah. Okay, good. All right. So we're going to jump into a frameworks folder. Way out here. Babylon. We're going to probably throw this into views. There's a folder for views. Babylon's got a few things set up in here. Let's just talk through a couple of these real fast. ZSpace, we won't dig into too much. You guys keep hearing about ZSpace, and that'll, I don't know. Well, we won't talk about ZSpace. But we have a view folder. We have a utilities folder with just some straight up functional stuff in there. This is our setup folder. This is obviously, you can imagine, this is like setting up the Babylon world, the Babylon scene and stuff like that. We have a materials folder. This is where we, we set up, this is our, where we set up a material. And inputs. This is where this is the start of these inputs that come on to the scene. So this is where we pick up mouse clicks and stylus rays and scene ray pickers and stuff like that. Let's focus on views. Now this thing did tell us that we can start out with a different script. Let's see, where was that? We can refactor scene object appearance. We can refactor hotspot view. All right, we're going to change the name of that. So let's find that. Here it is, hotspot view. All right, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to rename this to whatever we decided we were going to call it. Scene object appearance. There we go. Now, let's take a look at our constructor. So let's just kind of look through this script. What we can see is we're being passed our entity context when we're being constructed. That makes sense. We get our ID. So we have a scene object ID. Every mesh in our world, every scene object in our world has a unique identifier. That's how we identify who we are as a mesh. So we're going to be making a whole lot of these. This scene includes, I don't know how many meshes, let's say 100 meshes. So that means there's going to be 100 of these scene object appearances instantiated when we fire up and when we add meshes to the scene. We also grab the mesh itself. So somebody is setting this up. Let's find who's setting this up just to get an idea of how this is getting started. So you can see we've got a few things. Amtech and Setup Scene both use this. Let's look at this. All right. So Setup Scene. Okay, this one. This is setting up our scene. So this is like one call. We call this when we're mounted and we set up our scene. And you can see what we're doing is we're setting a static member of the hotspot material into this guy. So static, just so you guys quickly know, if you guys want to look up static, you can. But this is a static, this hotspot, this scene object appearance has a static material. Again, material it defines the appearance of our mesh, called hotspot material. I can tell you this is the throbbing green thing. Let me go ahead and get our thing running. So npm start. That is that green hotspot material that we have built. And this came from Shane working with a node editor to create material for us. So this is our own custom material. All right, so that's what's going on in Hotspot. Let's look at Amtech and look at this. Amtech, this is what is actually setting up our meshes. This is the Amtech model. So you can see this is hard-coded. This is where, I've been talking about the asset system and the hard-coding. You can see right here, this is where I have stored our Amtech model. So you may have wondered, where is this model coming from at some point? It's on an S3 bucket, hard-coded GLB file right here, okay? Just some background, that's where this is coming from. This is not optimal. This is where we will lever into our asset system when it comes time to set up the asset system. You guys might remember the other day when we were talking about assets, we talk about a data file. Here is our data file that tells us everything about this Amtech model. All right, so there's some background on that. And what we're doing is, this is a lot of Babylon-specific stuff. We're bringing in, you can see we are dependent on a lot of Babylon core up here. So that's where a lot of this stuff is coming from. But this is a promise. So if you guys want to look into promises, you can. But essentially, this is what actually downloads the GLB from the S3 bucket. It sticks it into our scene. So here's a scene loader. This is a Babylon thing. Loads the asset into a container asynchronously. This is how the mesh gets loaded into the scene. Then we get what's called an asset container. Again, Babylon specific. And it is full of assets. And we probably run through the assets and set up the scene object right here. So this is a good local function where we're setting up the scene object right here, setting up scene objects. We have, I can tell you what's going on here. We have a root node. So again, very specific Babylon stuff. We have a root node that is the root of the GLB we just loaded. From that, we're getting the descendants. That's all the meshes that we loaded into the app. It can be other things, but we're primarily worried about the mesh. So we run through the mesh. We get the data for that mesh from our data file. Here's the key thing. We're doing a bunch of stuff in here, but look at this. New scene object appearance. During this setup is when we set up our view script that we're talking about today. We instantiate a new scene object appearance. We're passing in the entities. We're passing in our ID. And we're passing in our mesh. All right? A lot of deep stuff going on here, I understand. But I just wanted to show you, this is where it gets started. This setup Amtech script gets called once, sets up our Amtech model. You can think about that as setting up any mesh. Runs through a bunch of stuff, positions things, all this stuff, magic going on. But the key right here is we create a view script. And that's where we're building right here. All right. Hopefully, yeah, go ahead.
So, sorry, this is going to be a very simple kind of analogy, just so I can understand that.
Yep.
When we're setting up this Amtech model, is that the same thing, kind of like getting a JSON file for any sort of website where we're just getting a string of data and parsing it as needed?
Yeah, you could say that. Yeah, it's like it is the model, right? It's the thing we want to look at, right? And it's a format. Yeah, go ahead. Yep.
So it's almost like saying like this series of code generates a view on the screen.
Yep, exactly. Yep.
Okay.
And it adds it to our Babylon scene, which means it shows up in our Babylon scene, and the render engine that's running that's rendering the scene can render it, can show us it. And that's how it all gets started. That's where this view comes from. Cool. All right. So let's get back to our hotspot view. I can see I renamed this. Let me go ahead and rename the script too. I noticed that it's not changed, so we'll rename that. And now let's jump over. I've got it running. And let's just imagine, let's just view this like in practice. Oh no. We broke some things with that name change. Let's see. Do I need to do it different? There we go. Just needed a second. All right, let's come back over here. Let's just talk through what we just talked about there. So that Amtech, the downloading of the GLB from S3, that's happening when I click this mount button. That's why this takes a couple seconds. So I'm going to click mount. App loading, we are downloading that actively from the S3 bucket. That GLB is running through that script of importing all the meshes into our scene. We're setting up all our views. Now the Amtech model is in the scene and all those views have been set up. We're not rendering yet because we haven't hit start, but just know that that's that process. That happens once when we mount an app. Now I'm going to click consume and we'll see our scene. When I click consume, we tell the render engine, we tell Babylon, start rendering. And here's a container. It's rendering into this canvas. All this Babylon, this came from, this is all that GLB. This Amtech model is GLB. Even the floor, even the stage, we call it, is from that GLB. Now these things are all scene objects. They all have, these are all meshes. We haven't written a bunch of code to interact with them right now. So I can't really do anything other than we do know there is some code going on when I click on that. That is an input. That is a mouse click getting picked up by a controller, which is then calling try pick on hotspot, I think, which is a use case, which then runs into all sorts of other stuff and it ultimately ends up with this dialogue showing up. All right, so notice these guys are that throbbing green. That is our hotspot target material. That is what we're going to apply when it becomes a target. There's a couple other things we're going to do. We're going to try to set it up so that when I mouse over something and I can click on it, it changes its appearance. It becomes hovered. So what that means is when I hover over this guy, this thing down here, it should change its appearance so that we know we can click on it. I don't know what that appearance is going to look like yet. That's kind of the risk of it. That's the unknowns. But we're just going to do that. And then when I press on this, when I hold my mouse down, it should go into a new appearance that's letting me know I am pressing, just like any standard button state. Okay? And then if I drag off, we'll work on that stuff. Oh, I just found a bug. Panning. Panning is alive even if I press on a hotspot. So we're going to refactor our try pan script soon to say if I click on a hotspot, if I press on a hotspot, we should not pan. This should not happen because, this is an interactable feature here. I should be able to click on that hotspot. All right, but that's a different thing. All right, so let's make this happen. Let's jump back over. We've already got this thing kind of started. This is what is doing that. Well, let me jump back to this one just to close the gap. When I go to next, you'll notice these two things that are throbbing, they will go back to their normal appearance because they're no longer a hotspot. And this guy over here, this puck, is going to start throbbing because it has a new appearance. It is a hotspot target. So I'm going to click next. And you'll notice now, if we go back and look at this thing on the floor, it's back. That's its normal appearance. The little light curtains on the machine over here, they're no longer throbbing, but now the puck is active. So it's got a new appearance. That's what we're trying to write. Things we're trying to add are more about hiding and then the press feature and the showing feature. Okay, let's get into it. All right, so update appearance. All right, so this guy, we have our constructor. We go ahead, it looks like we're storing our original mesh. This is going to get us back to our normal appearance. We are creating a PM, but we're using a different PM. This was my original implementation. We know we need to switch this to a new one. This, we're going to do, what did our card say? Where is that? Here. Where's my card? Here we go. Scene object appearance PM. All right, we're going to do that instead. So we're going to change this PM to scene object appearance. Is that PM? Yep, there it is. All right, we're going to do that. And now we're going to do this is going to equal a scene object appearance. So we're changing our PM that we're going to be tracking. That's going to cause some problems, but we'll figure it out. So we're going to do scene object appearance PM. All right. Now, what does this guy want? This guy wants, okay, the entry is a little bit different. We want the scene object ID first, the entity second, and then our callback last. Oh, no, that's right. All right. This has got the wrong signature. Let me peek at this guy real quick. Let's go to that definition. Bring that over here. We can see that this view update needs to be past this view model. So that means this has got to change to that. All right. Now our state is going to all change up. Let's go ahead and delete this. We no longer need this. We're going to import this guy. Are we not importing you? Why are we not importing you? Let's bring you in here like that. All right. Now our logic is going to change because our VM has changed. So let's just kind of set this off to the side for now. And I'm just going to look at my VM over here. And I'm just going to start out by I like to just spread stuff a lot. So we're going to go constant equals state. I'm going to change this to be a view model, I like that better. And then let's spread this out. We got our appearance. We got our hover. We got our pressed. Easier to work with, right? So now we can see right here we got our appearance, hovered, and pressed. We're going to be receiving that. We can go ahead and hook up our hotspot right away. So let's just do that. So we're going to do if appear. Yeah.
Quick question.
Yeah.
So instead of on view model, I noticed you kept on talking about appearance, hover, press and you spread it. If you were going to write that with the triple dots.
Yeah, you can do that.
Would you do ... interface or ... scene object appearance VM?
You know, let me think. That is if you were going to put it into a new, so that spread is a little bit different. If I were to do constant dot new VM and I wanted to directly copy that other one over, I would do it like this. And what that does is it,
I hope these questions aren't too distant.
no. That's, yep.
And I was expecting it. Not,
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, maybe I'm using that word wrong. Yeah, I can't remember what that would actually be called.
You're still spreading out each individual variable, I think is the correct term.
Yeah, you're right. Yep. Property. I think it's property. Yep.
So I think you're fine. So carry on. Sorry,
Okay.
I was just curious.
Yep. So now here's a great use of the enums, Emil. So remember our scene object, our appearance is of type this, which is an enum. So now we can say if appearance is equal to, and I can use my little thing, my helper. Why is my importer not working though? No. I feel like something is wrong here, but let me see. Let's clean this. Let me check. Scene object appearance, presentation managers. Scene object appearance, presentation managers. I wonder why. Why is this not happy? Something seems to be messed up here. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to just close my browser or my code for a second. Sometimes when you do renames, like I did, I renamed and renamed some scripts and stuff. While you have the compiler running, that can kind of booger things up. So let's just see if that fixes this. Just going to reopen this guy, see if he's happy now. What are you talking about? I got formatters installed. Let's see. Give it a second. Come on now, give me some love. All right, let's see if this works. We're initializing, activating. Do it. All right. Let's see if this works. Oh, why is it fighting me? Something is not. Scene object appearance PM. Yep, we're good there. Let's close this down. Scene object appearance PM is good. All right. Still trying to initialize the state, and I don't know why.
I think we use write the hotspot to
Oh, there you go. Yep, I'm importing the wrong thing. I'm using a hotspot appearance. Good call. There we go. Why is this? Maybe because we don't have this working now. Ooh, give me a second. Why are you so unhappy? Scene object appearance. Scene object appearance. Did I mess up something? Did I mess up something with my refactor? Let me go here. Presentation manager. Scene object appearance. Did I rename hotspot? No? Individual declar. What are you talking about? Individual. Oh, I got it. View. Okay, I had two things. So I had scene object appearance in this word as my class, and I was also importing scene object appearance as an enum, and that was the problem. All right, now we're back to happy. So now we get what I was trying to show. We've got our concrete list of what the chances. What are these things? I'm going to start with normal, and we're going to do this dot mesh. We're going to do this like that. Else if this, take this out, and this time we're going to do else if hotspot target. We're going to do this. We're going to put our hotspot material in there. And that should get us back to okay. It's because of this. There. That should get us back to. I might have to bang this. Okay, let me see. What did we do wrong? Why? Oh, I see. So we do have to count this thing. This guy starts out undefined up here. And so it's not happy. It doesn't like an undefined. So we're just going to throw in a conditional for that just to make sure. We're going to say if this is not undefined, if it exists. Oh, get this guy going. There we go. There we go. Now we'll get that inside of here. So essentially, if we hadn't set up, we're expecting someone to set this up, but if that gets skipped, we can't set a material because we don't have a material. So we'll just drop out. I don't know why that seems like an edge case that we could land on, but we're going to avoid that. All right. So at this point, notice we didn't do hidden yet, but we should be back to running where we were because npm start. All right. We should be back to hopefully showing our hotspots material and the other things being back to normal. And then when we switch our state, we should be back to the state should change and they should go back to their position. So let's see if this works. I guess while this is firing up, let's just do this. Let's say else. Let's go ahead and work on our hidden else. If appearance. Well, we can actually just do an else because this is the end. So else this dot mesh. I know this from my experience, but you might have to look this up. Dot set active enabled is enabled equals false. All right, this might need to be. This is a not assignable, so I think it's set enabled is going to be false. And what that'll do is that'll turn off this object. That's what we're going to disable the mesh in our view. But we need to make sure, now that we know we can turn it off, we need to make sure we turn it back on if we flip to normal. So we'll throw a true in up here. This is where I wish, you know, this feels so risky to not do test-driven development right here, but because you can't prove it. Are you really setting this up right? I don't know, but all right. Let's see. Are we running yet? Still compiling. Oh, come on. Set object appearance. All right, we got to fix up a few things here. Something, setup scene. All those refactors of the name. Screwed up our imports. So hopefully that'll work. Yep. Did not like all that refactoring I did. And I imagine this one is going to have the same problems. Yep. All right. And down here. We got to throw that name in there. There we go. All right. Maybe we're back at it. Good. All right. So let's see if our hotspots show up. All right. Let's go ahead and mount. And we're going to show this. Hey, that's good. They're glowing. So we did that. Let's go to the next. And excellent. All right, great. So, perfect. Now, we're going to start getting into some... Okay, let's do hidden real quick. I think, if I remember right, the way we do hidden, the time hidden shows up is when we're authoring a hotspot. So let's just see. Let's see if this is wired up. So I'm going to go to Edit. And I'm going to go to Light Curtain. There. All right. Look at that. Look at that. Okay, let me cancel. Yes. All right. So take a note of the scene. We've got two hotspots in here. Two hotspots target. This one and this one. They're two different hotspot targets. One of them is called Wire Cover and one of them is called Light Curtain. Now, the rules that we set up for this is that a mesh can only belong to one hotspot. That's the first rule we set up. So if I come in here and I either edit this hotspot, what should happen is this, the light curtain one, should hide because I can't select that as a target, right? I can't use that as my target. So let's check that. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to say, all right, we're going to edit the light curtain or the wire cover. Look at that. Light curtains go away. Now, I think we might have other things set up. Oh, my goodness. Look at that. It's the beauty. It's the beauty. By just clicking around, I can add more hotspot targets to this guy. You seeing that? It's a thing of beauty. And you can see they're adding here. They're setting up. And if I click it again, it should take it out of the hotspot. So if I click the wire... Oh, there's a problem. Okay, we got to turn that off. Turn this one. There we go. I can take things out. The robot arm. So we are turning on and off meshes. We are dynamically taking them in and out of the list of targets. And we're hiding meshes. So that's great. Our appearance is working. Oh, it's so exciting. Let's hit cancel and say yes. And it goes back to the scene. All right, let me add a new hotspot. Let's see what happens if I add a new hotspot. Let's say we're going to do, I don't know what this thing, let's do this. We're going to say this one, the frame. This is the frame of the Amtech machine. How exciting. I hope you guys are excited. I'm going to add two things. There we go. We're going to hit done. I'm going to hit save. And we're going to hit stop. Now, remember what our current state used to look like. I'm going to go to the active puck. It's this one. Now let's go to previous. Oh, look at that. We have authored in new hotspots. That is, we have completed a lot of the authoring experience. How exciting is that? I mean, that's just pretty exciting. Now, if I click on it, let's see what happens. This is the frame of the Amtech machine. Awesome. Now you can start to imagine, all right, the pick challenge you guys have been working on. Well, I don't quite have the, I don't think we have the view set up, but you can imagine now we could say pick challenge. Down here we would say, all right, the question could become something like pick on the frame. Now, you know, we would have all three of our hotspots showing up in here. I'm digressing, by the way. I'm just really excited. We could have all three of our hotspots showing up. We could have feedback for all three of them. And then we hit save. And now the question is what do I click on? If I click on this, I should get a wrong answer. We're getting feedback. We got to clean up a few things. And if I click on the frame, we should get a right answer, right? So that's how the challenge is going to work. All right, great. Very exciting. Let's do our hover and our pressed states now. I'm not sure. We know our press state is set up because we did this one yesterday. So let's see if that works. So let's come back over here. Now let's go to our scene object appearance. All right, we're going to need a pressed material. All right. Now we're going to start struggling a little bit. I got to figure out how to make a material first. Let's do that. Step one, let's figure out how to make material. All right. I'm just going to show you guys how I struggle through this. We're going to go here. We're going to go to Babylon. Material. We're going to make a very simple material. We might need Babylon.js. Material. All right. Introduction to materials of Babylon. Good spot to probably get started. All right. What do we got? We've got standard material. You know what? We're not going to make this fancy. We're just going to get this guy started. So I'm just going to make a red material. And we're just going to see if when I press on an object, I just want it to turn red. That's what I want it to do. All right. So let's just jump back over here. And we're going to come over here. Now, all of our scene object views are going to use the same material for pressed. All right, so let's see. That's why I'm going to use it. I'm going to put it in the static. If I were to not put it into static, if I were to just do the material in this scene object, that means we would be making, you know, however many meshes are in this scene. Remember, that's how many view models we're making. That's how many views we're making. I would be making like 100 press materials for everything, right? And I don't necessarily want to do that. So we're gonna put this in as a static. We're gonna do some sort of static pressed material. And that's gonna be, what was it called over here? It was called a, well, this is a node material. What was, where's my Babylon material editor? Oh, it's over here. It is called, we're going to start out and see if the standard material works. Babylon has a bunch of materials built into it. They all do different things. They give you different looks. We're going to start with a standard. That seems like a great way to go. So we're going to do Babylon standard material. Hey, there it is right there. Great. Now we're going to come into here. And we have to instantiate this standard material somewhere. Since this is a static, we need to do, let's find out where, let's go back to where we set up this one. I'm sorry, not definition. Let's find out where we instantiate this material and do it in the same spot. So we're going to go find all references. Here we go, set up scene. Perfect. All right, what I'm going to do is I am going to say, we're going to set the same material up in here. So we're going to do scene object material view dot pressed material is going to equal, and let's just grab that same code, this little snippet out of here, and we're going to do this right here. We're going to grab that guy, and we're going to bring that in. All right, let's do that. Now, we don't need the keyword because we import our stuff a little bit different. All right. let's see. Can we just bring in this? Why aren't you letting me import standard material? There we go. There we go. Let's call this pressed material. And we'll add it to our scene. All right. So let's see what happens. Let's wire this up, see if it works. So I'm going to jump into here. And I'm going to say, this is not going to be the final product because we're going to want to do some other things. But we're going to say if pressed, we're going to overwrite the material with this this material right here. This dot material. And we also need to do a conditional because it's gonna not like that this is oh, that's interesting. Well, we're going to do it like this. So we're going to... We got to make sure it exists. We got to make sure somebody set it up before we apply it. So we're going to do that. Now we're just going to say, if pressed, let's apply it to our mesh. Apply this to our material. We want this one. There we go. All right. Let's see if it works. Great. So let's come back over here. See if our press works. Okay. Consume. Oh, it did something. I'm holding down my press, and I'm going to drag off of it. I had to drag quick, but you can see I drug off while pressing. It canceled the press, and great. All right, this is exciting. So let me show you how I tweak materials now. So we're going to have to hack something. We're going to come in here and we're going to momentarily replace this right here, this bit of code with our pressed material. And I'll explain why. What we want to do is, okay, if we are a hotspot, I want to see the material. And I'll show you why we're doing that. We're just doing this to get some parameters. So what we're going to do is we're going to jump back over here. And I'm going to refresh this scene. Make sure it's fresh again. Now let me show you guys a cool little hidden feature. This time before I start the app, we're going to check this. See this Babylon Inspector. I don't know if you guys have explored that. This is a little dev feature that you can turn on. You can enable that. We're going to click Consume. And what you're going to see, give it a second. It has to go out and fetch something. But it's going to show the Babylon Inspector. This is tooling that Babylon has built in that lets you explore the scene. So this is everything going on in the Babylon scene. This is you can see our hierarchy. Here's our scene root. Here's our camera. Here's the ZSpace root, if you guys want to look at that. Here's our Amtech machine. You can come in here. You can find all the things that are going on in the scene. Okay? Now, what happened? One thing I want to check here real quick is, why are we not seeing a material change on this guy? Let me check something. Maybe I didn't refresh. I expect, right here. Hold on one second. What I want to see is, I want to see our pressed material showing up in the scene without actually having to press. So let's refresh this again. We'll mount it up. We'll show our inspector. Start ZSpace. Consume. Oh, not start ZSpace. This is the ZSpace view. Blast. I don't know how to get out of that. Oops. Let's try that again. Not show ZSpace. Show inspector. All right, show Babylon Inspector, consume. Now these guys should be gray. Excellent. Give it a second. That thing popped in. Now we can go find our material. We named that something like pressed material, I believe. So pressed material. All right, now we can adjust our pressed material. You could try to figure this out by just picking numbers, but I come in here and I just work with it. So here's our diffuse. Let's set our diffuse color to be green. Hey, that's great. Okay, so you're imagining now it's throbbing. You press on it. I'm guessing a little bit of a dark, like you kind of get that dark feel. So let's set it to be like a dark green, like that. All right, so I'm going to grab this hex off of here. There we go. Now I'm going to jump back over. I'm going to check real quick. Actually, you can actually hit the copy to clipboard. We're going to set the diffuse parameter on our material. So I'm going to click that. I'm going to click that copy to clipboard. Now we're going to jump back over here, and we're going to jump over to where we set up our material. And now we can do this. We can set this. I'm just going to paste that. That is going to be our hex. We're going to do, actually, let me get this. We're going to do scene object appearance dot pressed material dot diffuse color. It's going to equal, what do we got? Color 3, new, or actually I think, and there's documentation. So actually, let me show you how we would look this up. We would go to Babylon. I just go to Babylon, color 3. And you can find the documentation for Babylon color 3 right here. And what I'm hoping is there is a constructor from hex. Here we go. No, from hex string. Here we go. I got the hex string. So we're going to do this, a static from hex string. So we're going to make that from, so color 3 dot from, got to import this. Now this is a Babylon color dot from hex string, and I think we could just paste in our hex string like that. Sometimes you got to fiddle with these, but let's just see what happens. All right, now we just hit refresh. Let's get back to our player. It's gonna work. What do you got? Uh-oh. What happened? Let's hit save here real quick. There we go. All right, let's try it. And we don't need the inspector this time. Hopefully it'll just be like a dark green. Hey, look at that. Perfect. All right, let's hook it back up the way it should be. And so we'll put this back on. And this is now going to be pressed. So this should look a little better as we press it. Let's see. Let's refresh. Mount. Consume. Now I'm going to press. Goes nice and dark. I'm going to release. And it goes back to its state. All right. Awesome. Let's do a hover state real quick. So let's do a quick hover. We're going to do the same approach. Set up scene. Well, let's get into this. We got to add a static hover material. Okay. Oops. Don't do that. We're going to do a hover material. We're going to do a standard material. Again, let's make that option. Okay, it is optional. Let's set up our scene. This time we're going to grab this. Here. I probably want a different hex string, but we're going to do press material. No. Hover material. Hover material. And I'm just going to grab hex strings. I'm just going to look for a light green. No, let me just give me a hex string. Oh, I just want a lookup table. Hex string colors. Oh, give me this. And let's just look for a light green. How about this one? So just grab this. That's a terrible green, but this will just show us what we're doing. Now, a lot of times we're going to just stub this in, and then we'll circle back with Shane or somebody to really tweak the colors and get it right. So now we got a hover material with a different color. So it should, on hover, we should pop to that kind of a teal colored green. And then let's go over here and let's just throw that in here as, okay, we want, yeah.
I think you have missed one thing.
Okay.
That's the screen. Yes. We understand material. How about the material?
Ah, good call. Yep, we want to rename it. Yep. Perfect. Yep. All right. Now, we want, okay, so we can have two states true at the same time. We can have hover and pressed at the same time. Because you are always, the hover doesn't care about this pressing stuff. It's just wanting to know if your mouse is over something. So we have to decide which one overrules the other one. And so what we're going to decide is that press will overrule hover. So if you're hover, we'll set it one color. And then if you're pressed, we'll overwrite that with a different color. So we want to do hover first. And we want to make sure that the hover material works, is around. And we'll set that to hover. And then we'll overwrite that with press if we happen to be pressed. All right, let's get into it. Let's see if it works. Come on, baby. Consume. All right, ready? Okay. It is not hovering. Now, there could be a couple reasons why. Let's make sure we're getting our hover state. We're not 100% sure. No one is, other than test-driven development, we're not 100% sure we're actually getting our hover state set. So let's make sure that that is working first. Oh, no, wait a second. Look at this. I did this wrong. This should be hover material. There we go. That's the problem. We were just setting the material back to the state. All right. Let's get back to this. Let's try this again. Forward. Now consume. Try it again. Ready? Oh, look at that. That's nice. All right, so we get hover and we get press. Oh, it's so nice. We get the whole thing. Now also note, the other stuff is not hovering. That's because while we're in consumption, you can't click on anything else. You can't click on this box. You can't click on the frame. The only thing you can click on, the only thing that's interactable is the hotspots. But when we go to authoring, that changes. So let's go to edit. Let's go ahead and edit our our wire cover. Now everything is pickable. So the hover state is really ugly in this state, but you can see it's running around, letting us know that you can pick on all these things. So I'm going to press on this. It's going to go into press state, and then it's going to go into hotspot state after I come off of it. So it is working as expected. It's a little disconcerting, but it's working. Nice. We got some problems with meshes out here. I knew about that, but now you can see it. All right. Okay, guys. We're not going to spend a lot of time tweaking this because it takes a while to perfect this. Essentially, what I'm going to end up doing is I might even kick this over to one of you guys, actually. You can see it's very awkward. That's pretty bad how this is working out. What we would really want to do is maybe take the current material and boost it, make it subtly different. I'm not 100% sure what we want to do while we hover, but it's going to be a lot more refined when we actually. So what that really means is this script, when we update our appearance, there's going to be more logic going on in here about what do we do? What materials do we use? I used very gross, heavy-handed materials. And that was just to demonstrate this. The details of those materials are literally just details, right? You see how we hook that up as a view. You see what we're doing. You can understand it now. And we can start to tweak this and make this beautiful at this point, and handle it. There's other tricks. Let me show you a few other tricks we might try other than materials. Let me cancel out of here. Some other things to just be aware of that we can do in Babylon. And we might go this way. We haven't defined literally what we're going to do for these materials. But I'm going to try to find this guy. Oh, it's going to be hard to find. Shoot. Cabinet. I might be able to. Active puck. I know where that one is. That's over here. That's this thing. So some things we might be able to do besides changing the color is if we start looking around a material, we can do an outline and an overlay. So for every mesh, we can turn an outline on. So look at this. I'm going to turn on an outline. And, okay, that's not the good one. Let me grab this guy instead. Let's grab this one. Outline. Render outline. It's a little, oh no. Render overlay. Render. Yeah. All right, it's hard to see it, but if you look close, this puck has an outline on it. But you can change it. There's parameters. We can make that thick. We can make that, you know, different colors. There's another thing we can do called render overlay, which, hey, there you can see that right away, where it does an overlay on top of everything. So we can render an overlay on top of these guys. So you can set the color of that overlay to be, you know, something that gives it a little pop. It needs to be subtle, right? But that might be the way we want to go. And so that would be just changing, and instead of applying a material, we would apply, actually, let's try it. Let's see what that looks like. Let's do for hover. Let's try this. Let's do a this dot mesh dot, I think it's render overlay. Hey, here we go. Let's do an overlay. Oh, there it is, overlay. And what does that want? A bool. Oh, it's just that equals true. Equals true. Maybe we want to set our overlay color to something this. Well, we'll leave it. I think it defaults to red. We need to turn that off. We won't need this anymore. We'll just check for hover. But if it's not hover, we want to turn the overlay off. Otherwise, it'll just get stuck on. So we'll turn this to false. And you can imagine we're going to run into some situations with the press and stuff, but we'll get to that. So now let's see what that looks like. Let's just refresh this. And so now we, instead of doing a material overlay, we're gonna do a mesh vertex color overlay. Let's see what that does. So now, what did we do? We did that on hover. Hey, it messes with it. It still throbs, but you can see it's adjusted that color. It's done something to it. And then if we go to edit, and we're going to edit this, it's a little more, less obstructive, because you can see it doesn't quite do stuff. But yeah, you can see how we can change that up. But those are details, those are refinements that we'll do. That kind of goes out of scope from the actual setting up the view components in this thing. Last little thing we want to cover, we're not doing it very well. In our scene object appearance, right now, our meshes never get deleted. We show the Amtech and it's good to go. There are chances, we do want to kind of close this down and just be thorough. We would probably want to add a dispose function in here. And what this will do is clean up after ourselves. So if we were to make materials, all this stuff, we would want to dispose. And more importantly, we want to dispose our PM, right? So remember we write these dispose in the PMs. PM, oh wait, this dot PM dot dispose. That releases us from observing the entities. It shuts down that PM and clears it out of memory. So we'd want to do that as well, even though nothing is actually calling dispose. But this is where you would want to do your cleanup. We have made an instance to the original mesh here. We might want to null that out, some things. If we were building our own, sometimes you do make your own materials for your own thing. If we were doing that, we would want to delete those from memory and stuff like that. So we would close that out too. All right, guys, I think that's it. Any questions? I'm hoping you guys were as excited as I was. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Just looking forward to rebuilding this.
Yeah. I hope you guys see the excitement that I had of, like, you know, we wrote all of that, highlighting the logic, the clicks, the presses. All of that was done in test-driven development. And the amount of code we had to write in Babylon, in the framework, was very small. That is a thing of beauty. Imagine now we switch to Three.js, okay? A different rendering engine. Yeah, there's a setup of all the meshes. Let's assume we figure out how to import a GLB and all that stuff. This view script, for us to flip to Three.js, that's what? 30 minutes of work, right? So yeah, there's a little bit of work there, but we can quit Babylon and probably be up and running. Babylon could go away, could get deleted from the world, and we could have our app back running in probably a couple days, right? And that's the joy of this thing, and that's the beauty of clean code architecture, is identifying what is a framework that is something we do not control, trying to push that framework as far out as possible so that we can, all right, you want to leave? Fine, you're dead. We can replace it with something else. So that's the beauty of test-driven development. Or not. No, that's the beauty of clean code architecture. So, all right, guys. Any last questions before we shut this down? All right, great. Awesome. Well, I'm probably going to, let me go ahead and stop my screen recording because we don't